Hi, Facebook friends. Good morning. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. So happy to have some time with you today on this Thursday. I love Thursdays because it's been a space of just so many wonderful conversations with such generous women who share their stories with us. As you know, Thursdays is when we share the mic now with Black women in our community to elevate their stories. And today we have another great conversation for you. And I'm so grateful to have our guest with us today, Dr. Funke Olayinka.
Yes, thank you. You did amazing.
And folks, I'm just going to tell you one of the things that I do whenever we have guests on is I ask them to say their name for me, and then I write it down phonetically so that I can, say it hopefully properly. And glad that I got it right. But I want to model that for all of you because sometimes we see a name and either struggle with it or don't say it because we don't know how to say it. But it's a wonderful learning opportunity for each of us to ask. Really, I think shows respect for the other person, to be able to go through that process. So starting with that, just to tell you a little bit about the behind the scenes that happens here at the YW to model that for everybody. But with that, let's jump right in. I want to introduce you to our wonderful guest today. She is the owner of Nothing Bundt Cake. I love that. It is in Wayne, New Jersey. She is the founder and Chief Executive Officer of GHIT Consulting,
Yep.
an information and technology consulting firm primarily servicing the healthcare IT industry. Dr. Olayinka received her Doctor of Medicine degree from the University of Science and Arts and Technology College of Medicine at Ulverston, Montserrat, her Master's of Science degree in Biomedical Sciences from the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, and her bachelor's degree in Human Physiology from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. She is also on the board of directors for the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey that supports the Chamber's mission is to economically empower and sustain African American communities through entrepreneurship and capitalistic activities within the state of New Jersey. She is also an advisory and advancement council member at William Patterson Coatzacoalcos College of Business, serving to help advance William Patterson's mission to strengthen the university's competitive position among public institutions of higher education in New Jersey and beyond. And she also serves as the program director for the I Read Summer Program, which is a community-focused faith-based initiative at Agape House of Worship in Roselle, New Jersey. But above all, and I can relate to this, her favorite gig out of all of these,
Yeah, most important gig.
most important for sure, is being the wife to Jonah and the mother to Grace and Joshua. Her family serves as her daily motivation to work hard and continue to strive to be the best version of herself. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
My goodness, you have you have your hands in so many important areas and very different areas too, which tells me a lot about you.
Yeah.
And how expansive, and how, a real Renaissance woman, as we say, lots of different talents.
Yeah. There are some of us like that.
Yes. So it's so impressive, to read it all like that. But tell us a little bit, and we're in the midst of Women's History Month. We're also in the midst of our Women's Leadership Conference, where we've been sharing a lot of stories to help inspire women, and the theme is being unapologetically you.
I love it.
You really are, you've not boxed yourself into one space at all.
It hasn't always been that way though, but
so can you tell us a little bit about that and how how you created no walls for yourself, which I
well,
love.
I think, before I start, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. And I just want to stress the importance of what you do. I read a little bit about the background of sharing the mic, and I just want to say thank you for using your platform to empower others. So I just want to put that out there. I think it's great, and we need more of it. So thank you for doing that. But then to answer your question is, how did we get here? I will say it hasn't always been that way. I'm from a Nigerian. I'm Nigerian. I grew up in Nigeria. I moved to the United States when I was about 14, and as a young girl, and then there's a lot of women like that. You're smart, you're able to read the books, and it comes to you. You can take exams, you can do well. And I think for a lot of us of African descent, when we move to the United States, which is a great place of opportunity, automatically, your options are you either a physician or an attorney or an engineer. That's it. That's, as an African, that's all your options. That's it. And what I love about the theme is being unapologetically you. And I think for a lot of women, and I think all women of all races and all backgrounds can understand this. I think we're entering an era where as women, we can look at ourselves and we can be okay with our talents, and we can understand that it's okay to be versatile. It's okay to be able to take exams and do well. And it's also okay to, if you want to be a poet and stand, if you have that talent, don't be apologetic about it. And it's you just own it and do it. And I think your theme just actually embodies my journey. So I came here and I'm like, all right, I can do this. I can take exam. We're going to do medicine. This is how it's going to go. And the journey was long. I did my undergraduate. I have my master's. And, I came to a point where I started feeling like I could do more, and it's that struggle. And I would say a lot of times as women, we get into this internal conflict with ourselves. And what I would say is just lean into it, lean into it and see where it takes you. And I wish somebody had told me that when I was younger. I didn't. I didn't lean into it. I fought against it. And I'm like, no, this is the box. This is what I'm supposed to do. So this is what I'm going to do. But by the time I got out of grad school, I struggled with applying to medical school because it's really difficult. It's incredibly challenging. And even as an African-American student, and background, and you're competing against so many people that didn't have the same opportunities as you. So somehow, struggled, got in, and by the time I got out, I was done. So for me, I don't see patients clinically. I had a great opportunity where I was open to options. I let myself think outside of the box, and I had a great opportunity to enter the healthcare informatics field, and I leaned into it and I went for it. And I did that for a while, but along the journey, I realized that I had leadership qualities. I was open to talking about my struggles. Because of the support that I've gotten, as far as I've gotten, I was willing to share that. I wanted to make somebody else's journey that I have been through better for them. And, that doesn't exactly fit into medicine in a way, but I went into medicine because I was like, I wanted to help people. A lot of times, we can look at what our aim and our mission is, and it could just look different. We could all have the same aim. We could all have the same mission. It would just look different for everybody. So having the opportunity to lean into that, I was able to pivot and do something which I love, implementing cancer centers and EMRs. And after a while, I did that for a while. And I said, you know what? I can build my own business out of this. Again, being unapologetic about what your skill sets are and what your abilities are. Because I was working for consulting firms and I'm like, what are you doing for me? I can do that myself. And that's okay to be that way. And I leaned into it and I started my company and did that for a while and looked around and said, you know what? I think I could be an entrepreneur. I just created a business out of, doing some research and figuring it out. I wonder what it would be like to be an entrepreneur and own and be part of a wonderful franchise, by the way. And that's how the opportunity came to purchase a franchise, which is Nothing But Cakes, a great franchise, by the way. The cakes are delicious if you've never been. And what I loved about it is when you go into the bakery, it's so bright, it's so light. It's just a happy place. And I'm like, I want a part of this. And then you're part of everybody's joy. You get to celebrate with people when they're celebrating. The product is delicious, amazing for anybody that's never been a part of it. And it was a lot of the franchisee owners are women. And I'm like, I can get behind this. This is great. I did some research and it looked like a great business opportunity. And I went in. And that's how I found myself there. And while I was there, great opportunities came again. I was non-apologetic. I just went with the flow. Got the great opportunity to sit on the board with William Patterson. And I said, yes, let's do it. And then we opened a month before the pandemic hit. So So
Well, there's so much to jump in there. My goodness.
yeah.
No, but I apologize. I don't mean to,
No.
cut you off, but I have to go back and just thank you for something that you started when you were sharing your journey. And by the way, we've got Gladys and Funmi and um, Deb Busola.
Oh, so that's my sister. I have two Busolas.
Yes, so I hope I'm saying I'm sorry. I can't
You
do
did
it
good. You
with
did good.
everyone. So hopefully I did okay. Everyone's cheering you on here and just really affirming what you're saying. But I have thank you for sharing. It's generous of you to share that you went through this, and obviously a really rigorous education and training and got there and were like, I'm not sure that this is for me because so many people, especially something that costs that much and is so intensive and you have to put so much in, people sometimes just stick with that path because they feel like, well, I've invested so much in it, it doesn't make sense to make a shift now. But you are such a beautiful example of, as you said, kind of trusting in what you were feeling and moving in a different direction. And look at all that has come from it. The more that you kind of listen to your path, and being unapologetically you sticking with our, theme, how much it's brought to you. So you're really modeling something that I know is so difficult for people.
And I want to stress how difficult it was. I don't want to minimize how
Yeah.
difficult the journey was. My husband's been great and supportive because I don't even understand. I think I've had a schizophrenic career and he's been there for all of it. So I don't want to, and then, a lot of it came from struggle too. A lot of it came from failures. I also don't want to understress how much I failed and how much things didn't work out. But being able to understand and believe in yourself and know that you have skills and abilities, that if something failed and something didn't work, there's an opportunity to try again or also try something different. So I want to definitely make sure I'm clear about that.
There's another one. There's another really key sharing right there. So thank you. Failure, doesn't mean the end. It actually can be the beginning. It can be in the beginning for sure. So, you the spaces that you have chosen to move in,
Yeah.
Obviously starting with medicine, then moving into healthcare, IT,
And also some nonprofit work. I'm very active at my church as well. I think some of my members from church are here as well. I'm a member of Agape, so that's awesome with the IREAD program.
And your small business, though, you've really moved yourself into spaces that are not necessarily traditional for women and traditional for, an African American woman,
Absolutely.
So can you speak a little bit about, what it took for you and what some of the, challenges that you had to work through getting into those spaces? Because I know that there are others that are watching and others that are hearing your story that may want to step into a space, but, fear how they'll navigate it because of the realities of, our systemic racism and some of the issues that we're, as a nation are battling. Actually, as a country, as a world, we've seen this now overseas with what's happening as
Absolutely.
well. So, I mean, there's so much work to do, but yet you are as an individual making lots of movements in places and empowering ways.
Yeah. I will start by saying that I do stand on the shoulders of a lot of women that have come before me. And I say that to also stress the point that that's not a privilege that I take lightly. And a lot of the battles that I fight in my encounters, I take that into account because I think about the other people that are coming behind me. So I say that to say, how do we, that's where we start. It has not been easy. While rotating as a medical student in the hospital, I don't think there's ever a time I went into a patient's room that they thought I was the physician. No, I can't even think of one time. And we usually have our badges, we have everything. And I know that this is also the story for other African American women who, by the way, make up less than 1% of the population of physicians, and that's African American women. So the battle is not easy. And I shared a little bit about just struggling and trying to get into medical school. People look at you and they've made their decision already. And it's unfortunate. And I think some part of it too is I think people have to recognize implicit bias and be able to just know that it exists. First of all, it's sad that we have to discuss that it exists. It exists. And if you don't believe it exists, that's probably where you should start. and figuring it out. So the journey has not been easy, from medical school, and even till now, I'm on a platform with a group of other women who are African American physicians, and this is a daily struggle for them. We have physicians that go to see a patient in the ER, and the patient will ask for a different race of a physician. And what makes a difference in those scenarios are the other non people of color who say to them, no, this is the physician that's on duty today, and this is the physician that's going to treat you today. And there's only so much that we people of color can do. I think there was a time where we all felt like we needed to educate. We have to educate. It is our duty to educate. And I have to be honest, we're tired. Some of us, and then part of it is also for us to be unapologetic. I mean, we will continue to do it, but I think it's a stronger message when other races join forces with us, which is exactly what you're doing on your platform. You're taking your platform, you're taking your privilege and just going with it. And I know you're asking about implicit bias, but I'm just going to rope them all together. Kindness is not overrated. People figure out, well, where do I start? Racism does exist, and in every barrier, you're going to get through it. And I think the way that we get past it are understanding that even for us to be in a certain space, we are standing on other people's shoulders. And that's the reason why I serve. That's the reason why I serve in the African American Chamber of Commerce, because I do understand that I have overcome some things and I'm here, and it behooves me to pave the way for others and I do have some privilege, even being a person of color. I do have some privilege. I had the opportunity to get an education. I had the opportunity to be a business owner. It is a business owner. It is a privilege that I don't take lightly, and I use those opportunities. And I think that's how we start. Kindness is not overrated, and non-people of color need to understand and acknowledge their privilege. And just like you're doing, give other folks a platform. If you're not sure how to start, just start with kindness. Start with kindness and start with, how would I want to be treated? I'll treat this other person the way I have to be treated. Part of the reason why I started my consulting firm was also equality of pay, because I just noticed, I knew that I was doing the same amount of work as somebody else and was not getting paid as much. I knew that. I just happened to see a contract. That's how it starts, right? Somebody leaves something in the printer, or somebody sends the wrong email, and you just happen to open it and you see. And I knew it. And I'm like, enough. I'm going to try to do something different. So I hope I answered your question. I kind of went a little around it, but
yes, no, you answered it very directly, and I appreciate you calling out, our white communities and other races, that we do have to link arms to be able to be supportive. Obviously, that's why we've created this space, and I just want to echo that I do see that as my responsibility, and I see that our hope is with these kind of conversations that we are, through sharing stories, which you and all the other women who have been on this platform, have done so generously. I see, Lakeisha is on right now. She's been one who's, been very kind to share her story as well, that, through this process that we are, building bridges and understanding of humanity, and, moving from kindness to action, quite frankly, from there. So I really appreciate you being so, uh, you know, uh, direct, because
I
that's
mean,
what
I figured that's what you were looking
no,
for.
that's absolutely what that's
I
exactly,
figured that's what you were looking for on the platform. So
absolutely. I mean, these are urgent conversations, at this, that we're having for sure. People's lives,
yeah,
of,
and it's
our Black and brown
not
communities
just
are,
and it's not just people of color. I hope I address it for every person. I think
correct.
for people who not of color, you do have a privilege, and if you don't know that, that's where you start,
Yes.
and try to use that. And I think for us, people, women of color, people of color who have more opportunities than others, it's the little things, like when I take my son to soccer and I'm picking him up, and I notice there's another Black boy that his parents haven't arrived yet. I don't leave until he gets picked up. I just don't. And I tell him, I was like, is mom on her way? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I'll just wait until she gets here. It's the little things, we have to look out for each other, and just understand that, you're in a place where you're afforded. I mean, I think I talked about it already, so I won't beat the horse, but it's a work that we all have to do, and we'll go farther together.
Yes, well, for sure, we must link arms and stand together. I also want to just call out that I think what you're doing in terms of getting yourself on the boards, like the African American Chamber of Commerce, like William Patterson. We know statistically that part of the issue where there is not equity in pay and equity in representation is because those that are making decisions at the highest levels, and especially in the nonprofit community, most boards are mostly white and mostly white men, and in the for-profit sector, the same. And so, until we really change that landscape,
Yeah.
we are not going to change everywhere else. And the transparency, I think that as a nation, we're trying to move towards with legislation to create to make sure that everything is out in the open in terms of salaries and processes, will, also is key so that, all of this, you know, uh, so we can't support and, reinforce the bias, that exists, that can't be, kept in place. So
You're absolutely right, and it's not easy. I'll be honest with you. And I give credit to William Patterson for approaching me and asking me, and I knew why, and I said yeah. And actually, they were transparent about it. They're like, we have an all-white board. Would
mhm,
you be willing to, join us and or be a woman who's I get it. And for a lot of us, I think if I can encourage other women, because there are a ton of us that are doing great things and we're trying to fight the good fight. But you said it so well that we need to be at the tables where decisions are being made. I think for a long time, for somebody like me and for most of us, or women of color or even immigrants, we feel like the only way to get there is by education, which is the starting point. But I think you get to a point where you realize that you can't out educate the bias. You
yeah.
really can't. We have to, when the opportunity presents itself, we have to be in a position, we have to be willing to take the leap to sit at the table and help make those decisions, whenever the opportunity presents itself.
And to your point, those of us who have privilege like me and look like me need to stand next to you and support you. And I would also say to, those of us that are also picking up, our sons at soccer, should, be stopping and waiting as well with you. So, calling us all out to be thinking about, all those places and spaces that we can, take a step. I always say everyone is not primed to be a full-fledged activist. I understand we're all wired a little bit differently, but everyone has a skill set and an opportunity to do something, and clearly more than any of us are doing, for sure.
And
Um,
every little bit helps. Like you were saying, every little bit helps is the kindness and just even fairness. And for those of us who are moms, being intentional about raising our children,
mhm,
because especially you don't understand, but just be a part of making a difference for the future. Be intentional about making sure your children are kind. Be intentional when you're out with my children, when we're out in a public spaces and I see individuals with disabilities. I also sit on a grant review committee for an organization, my goal, who gives grants to children on the autism spectrum.
mhm,
It's the little things, making sure that your children are comfortable in spaces where there are other people who don't look like them, who
mhm.
don't act like them, who don't have the same abilities as them. Being kind, regardless of if they're in a wheelchair or having difficulties walking or nonverbal, you still walk into the room and you still introduce yourself. You have to acknowledge them and make them feel that they are part and just being as inclusive as possible. So it could be as something as little as that, you
Yes.
know.
Yes. So many opportunities for learning, and I hope our viewers are taking notes for sure. I want to ask you though about, you know, I love the conversation about how, you've really taken that step to sit on boards and be active. Can you talk to us a little bit about the African American Chamber of Commerce? I mean, I'm familiar with the work of the organization, but I want to make sure that others are familiar with it and understand, how, I mean, for all of us, one of the best ways for us to combat racism is economic equity, economic equality. And by doing that is really supporting businesses of color, and
Absolutely.
organizations like the African American Chamber is a place to go to know, specifically do that research. So, and I know Lakeisha's saying she's never heard of the chamber too. I see she's saying, so could you let us know a little bit about it?
Absolutely. And I would hope that we can include a link of it.
We will. And for our viewers, we're going to have links in here in our comments for you for the businesses that, the doctor is connected to. And also we'll put one in for the chamber as well.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying what the mission of the chamber is. So the mission is to economically empower and sustain African American communities through entrepreneurship and capitalistic activities within the state of New Jersey. So that's the mission. And just to break it down for everybody, all business owners, especially business owners who are African Americans, should be absolutely a part of the chamber. If you have a business and you're a person of color, you should definitely be a part of it. And the chamber works not only with business owners. They're trying to, their goal is to make everything equitable. If you're in a situation where you're having difficulties, they even help with funding. There's a lot of educational programs that are going on. I think one program that I just think it's so awesome is they have a restart program. And that's for people who have been previously incarcerated that are coming out, and because it's difficult for them to find a job. So the chamber they partner with other businesses, and that program, I think it's so phenomenal because they recognize that folks are having a difficult time. So they said, why don't you be an entrepreneur? Why don't you open your own business? And they've been successful with like folks who are going into construction businesses and helping them overcome some of the challenges with that. So those are some of the many programs that they have. Scholarships for students in high school. I sit on the educational committee board, and we are working with schools to make sure that children are given opportunities. They get to see other people that look like them, so they know what opportunities they have. So the chamber does a lot of things. You definitely should be a member, and if there's an opportunity for you to partner with them, you can. The website, please share it. Just click on it. And even if you're not a member, browse through the programs that are available. If that's something that speaks out to you, just show up and join. I think next Friday, and I may send that link to you, I'm doing a presentation for the chamber just about my business, and just letting people know. And a small way that everybody could benefit is to support small businesses.
Yes.
Support small businesses, support Black-owned small businesses. I think if you support small businesses, you can't go wrong. But if you're trying to really, go above and beyond, support small-owned Black businesses, because we do have more challenges to overcome than others. But so there's a little ways to try, and those are some of the things that the chamber does.
Great. We have a question from someone watching asking if you have to be a business owner to be a member of the chamber.
No. And then, I call her Sister Gladys. I know Gladys asked the question. You should definitely be a member, and I'll call you after this. Because you're more than a business owner. She just types this question, but she's an entrepreneur in so many ways. So no, you can be a member. You don't have to be a business owner to be a member, and you don't have to be a business owner to participate in a lot of the activities and programs that they have.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad we could answer that for Gladys and get that information out for anyone else. I'm sure other people had the same question. I know Lakeisha was saying she wasn't familiar, with the group. So now anyone can go to the link. We have the link here and it sounds like we also have some great programs, especially next week, so that you get to spend a little bit more time, hearing about your work. So the time goes quickly when we're on YWTV for sure. I always say, it flies. So, you started this new business. And I have to say, I've had them, so I know how
good. How they're really good.
Are. So, and I love sweets, but I'm very specific and particular. So, I will say, they really are wonderful. Listening to you, though, you keep evolving, right? You keep evolving. And there's two things that come to mind for me that I just want to make sure I ask you before we leave each other. And we need to talk again because there's more to come.
There is.
But one is, in all you're doing, I think one of the things as mothers, right, our actions and what we're doing is really sending messages to our children. And, you have your two are watching closely. What is it that you're hoping that they're getting from from what you're out there doing every day and what they're witnessing?
That is a fantastic question. I'll try to answer it real short, but we made it a whole new segment for that. That is the most important job that I have. And it is the hardest job that I have. And I can't even, so for my children, um, I ventured into entrepreneurship partly because of my children. My business with the hospitals took me everywhere. I traveled a lot. I wanted to do something that kept me at home and not on a flight, and to model that behavior to them. And for them, what I stress to my children every day is hard work. I mean, first of all, kindness. I'm a big proponent of kindness, but it's important for my children to see that I work hard. It's important for my children to see, and for them also to understand that they have some privilege. I make sure that they volunteer. I make sure that they give back. Like I explained before, I stand on the shoulders of others, and I make sure my children understand that the position that they are in, they have some privilege, and it's important for them to understand that they have to keep working hard, they have to keep being kind to others, and they have to keep pushing themselves and giving back. A lot of what I do, there's service involved. You
Mhm.
know, it's just, I think that's how we build communities. That's how we make the world that we live in be better, is when we give back. We give back of our time, we give back of our resources, we give back of our intellect and abilities. A lot of times we're not always in a space where we can do that, and we don't always have capability. And as a woman, rest when you need to. I'm a big proponent of that. I think some of my close friends would know that this year I'm actually resting. This is me resting. I'm not starting anything new this year. Well, so I say, maybe towards the end of the year. But I I want to model that for my children. And most importantly, I just want them to be good people. I want them to be kind people. I want them to be compassionate people that care about others. And I don't know. It's the most important. It's a whole thing. I'd love to talk to you more about it. It's the most important job I have. It's the hardest job, most important job that I have. And my kids are awesome.
Yes, well, I'm not surprised, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I can imagine with all that you've accomplished, that it's quite um, amazing for them to be watching you in action, for sure. And you kind of almost touched on what I was going to ask you to close
Oh,
out,
sure.
which is what's next for you. So it sounds like nothing till the end of the year. We got
Well,
okay. So everyone on here, we're holding her to this so that she rests all the way through. But what
I,
can we expect from you next year?
well, I think as a business owner, and you touched on it a little bit when you're talking about evolving. I have, again, I don't mean to beat your theme. I'm being unapologetically me.
Mhm.
One of the things that I have not done very well in the past, and is rest and refresh and regroup. And I'm going to be 40 this year. I don't mean to call myself out, but something about turning 40 this year just made me really reevaluate a lot of things and actually slow down and try to enjoy what I'm doing and figure out what's next. So that's a great question. I am, working on, one of the things that I'm doing differently is this interview. In the past, I would say no to everything because I didn't honestly have capability. We had the pandemic. I opened a business a
Yeah.
month after the pandemic hit, is being available and sharing my story because I realized that the struggle is something that needs to be shared. So that's one of the things I'm trying to be better about, is saying yes to opportunities to share my story with others. I haven't always done that. Rest, and then looking for opportunities to grow the business, and then giving myself the okay to do something different if that's what I choose to do.
Well,
So
I love that answer, and that's great modeling for the rest of us. And it's so important that we figure that out at some point in our lives. Before we had a great conversation with Mia Ali the other night, and we were talking about wake up calls that happen if you're lucky, right? If you're lucky
yeah,
to wake up.
that's exactly what it is if
So,
you're lucky.
yeah, so it's wonderful to know that you didn't wait for that you took the time, and are having that reflective and re-energizing, and it's great modeling for the rest of us. So thank you. And I tell you, I'm in my 50s. The 40s are great. So
I think so. I'm really
so,
leaning into it, and I'm really enjoying it. My sisters joke and say that I lose my filter more and more with every decade, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the 40s.
Well, I think that is, one would hope if with each year that passes, we feel stronger and stronger in our core of who we are. So maybe those filters are really not needed because
I
we
agree.
feel more comfortable with ourselves.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
our theme for Women's History Month this year, national, the international theme for is better because of her. And I can say we are better because of you for sure. You are doing so many important. You've broken barriers. You're creating space. You're bringing others along, and also you're sharing your story so everyone else can learn along the way. Thank you for calling us out. Thank you for giving us really concrete ways, that we can do better and do different. And thank you for your commitment to, the work that you're doing and creating new spaces.
Thank you. Thank you for this platform. Thank you.
And everyone watching is so proud of you, and I'm not surprised at all either that you have such a fan club. It's easy to understand why. We'll be watching. We look forward to working with you again in other ways. And
I'm sure we made this was so easy. I would love to do this chats are easy. It's easier than checking emails. So this is good.
They are easy. I always tell everyone comes on, they say, I'm nervous. I'm like, it's just you and me on the screen. We're just chatting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all good. And it is. And it lifts everyone and inspires everyone. So those of you watching, you've got an assignment here. Take something you learned today and put it into action. You heard.
Don't be afraid. Just do it.
Don't be afraid. Just do it. We've got great links here so you can learn more about the great work, that's happening, the businesses, the boards, get connected to them, learn more, share the story in some way with someone in your life, something that you learned today, pass it on. That's how we build those bridges, and that's how we do better and different. We also hope that you continue to join us for other YWTV conversations. Tomorrow we have another great one planned. I'll be talking with Christine Goodman, the Director of Cultural Affairs for the City of Jersey City. So I'm looking forward to talking with her tomorrow. And it is, as I said, Women's History Month. We are in the midst of our virtual Women's Leadership Conference. We have had 2 great conversations. DC Marshall was an amazing keynote and kickoff for us. Just this week, I got to have a great conversation with everyone joined us with Mia Ali. We have 2 more great conversations, one on the 16th. So please, we'll have the link here so that you can register and join us. And of course, be thinking about all the other great programming at the YW. Go to our website. You can think about camps, our senior wellness initiatives, so much going on at the YW. I said, no matter what your age is, there's something for you. Thank you again so much for being so generous, sharing your story so openly. So much good comes from that. And but I know that it's not without a cost, and I'm grateful that you were willing to come into this space with me today and trust me and and have this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, have a great day. How can you not feel lifted and energized after this wonderful conversation? Carry the life in this woman that she just shared with us. Carry it with you through your day. Look at her beautiful energy.
I hope to see all of you at the bakery. Stop by, support us, and get some great sweets.
It's very easy to get to, and you will not be sorry. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.